Welcome back to another episode of Pokemon Knowledge. We are in for a absolute treat on today's video. So one of the things that I've been really striving to do on this channel is to get other people's point of view, but not just that, to get other people's point of view from different areas of the hobby from other countries. What are the markets like in different spots of the world? And honestly, at this point in the game, there is nobody that has a better pulse on that market than Sam from Chibi Collectables. He's based out of the UK. He's doing some really, really big things in this hobby. He travels to the States. He's been to the Worlds and Japan's. When you talk about all the European countries, he's dabbled in what it seems like every single one of them. But before we get into a little bit more of the nuances of what Sam does, Sam, first off, I just want to say thank you, buddy, so much for coming on the channel. And for anybody out there who may not know who you are, feel free to introduce yourself and tell them a little bit of your backstory in Pokemon.
Sure. So, firstly, it's nice to talk to you again. We haven't spoken since Charlotte when we
Yeah.
first met and got on quite well. So I'm Sam. Most people know me as Sam Chibi or Chibi Collectables in the UK. I'm a UK Pokemon business full time. I have been for 2 years now. I do a lot of the shows in the UK, and like you said, I have started branching out, going to the US, doing collector-cons. I've done obviously both worlds now, and yeah, I've done a few more countries, been to Norway a couple of times and Paris, and I'm trying to get out there, trying my best. But yeah, background wise, I've been in the hobby since most people, that typical kind of thing. So early 2000s, I remember getting my first Pokemon card as a child, getting really into it, enjoying it. And it was something I just kind of did with my grandparents at the time. Every time I went to go and see them, we would pick up some cards from like a local shop and I'd add it to the binders and, the normal thing. Obviously grew out of it when we got to about, I'd say round Team Rocket era. Still kept on my binders. I had the base set Charizard, which was like my prized possession back then. That was safely tucked away, secure. The only card in my binder that was in a penny sleeve back then, the only one. And yeah, I kind of just put them on the shelf, forgot about them. When I got maybe to 16, I had a little bit of income coming in. I had a little part-time job, and I just rediscovered my binders and was kind of looked into it more. Now I'm a bit more grown up and just decided to piece them together. So instead of them, I had them in like a 151 kind of scenario where everything was just like the 151 Pokemon. It was in no sets or no specific order. So I kind of broke it back down, put it into base set, the jungle, the fossil. I think it was Rocket as well. I had some of, and just basically went on eBay,
Yeah.
bought the stuff I needed, completed the sets, and then I was like, "Oh, this is cool," and just kind of put it away again, forgot about it. A couple years later, I met my now fiance, in college or university for the UK, and yeah, she was really into Pokemon, and it just became a side thing that we did at the weekends when we met each other. We'd go and buy tins and blisters. This was back in 2012, I think it was. It was literally the
Oh,
start of the black and white era. So it's
wow. So that's you
yeah,
definitely dating yourself saying early black and white.
yeah, just a little bit. So we would go in the UK, especially. There wasn't much people interested in Pokemon. It was very nuanced and like nobody really was buying stuff. And it was hard to even find people do YouTube about it. I know like we used to just watch primetime Pokemon just throughout the day, just on repeat, opening product, enjoying it, enjoying the time together and that. And we used to just kind of put stuff in a binder. I think we were ripping like plasma blast boxes like quite frequently. I think we had like a little YouTube channel because that was before Instagram, but a
Yeah.
little YouTube channel where we'd rip stuff and do trades and that. Yeah, we kind of collected until through the X and Y era to Sun and Moon. We had a load of stuff. We'll get into more detail about what I did and collect and did. And yeah, we kind of like everything. We grew up, started saving for a house, and we kind of put Pokemon to the side. And yeah, I rediscovered it maybe 3 years ago now. I got back into it. I say rediscovered it, but took out my stuff, got my interest, had a bit more time again from working that 9 to 5, which I did have. Um, and yeah, I kind of 2 years ago, I was a graphic designer. I worked full time. I felt like a change, and yeah, I kind of got into Pokemon. I had the knowledge from before, and I had quite a sizable collection behind me, and just yeah, took the leap, and here we are 2 years later,
Yeah,
full
well,
time.
I think when you say leap, I think you're underplaying that a little bit. I think some people they kind of dip their toes into Pokemon, and then
Yeah,
I feel like you did a jump like head first off the high dive into Pokemon. Because
yeah.
if anybody out there is not really familiar with Sam, the very first link in the description of this video is a link to Sam's Instagram page. His Instagram page has some absolutely
Oh,
crazy. I know you went after gold stars. You sent a pretty much what appeared to be like a full gold star set to
yeah,
PSA, including Rayquazas, all that stuff. But you want to just talk a little bit about that, and
yeah,
because you're
yeah.
going hard. I mean, how just being in the UK, how are you sourcing this stuff to begin with?
So I remember back again, 2011, 2012. I used to go onto eBay and I'd buy collections frequently, and no one else was really doing it. There was very limited card shops. There was no one really buying and selling, and we'd kind of. So what I would do is, because I was at the time collecting gold stars, and gold stars were like the thing everyone wanted, a complete PSA 9 set, a PSA 10 set. And I
Oh,
knew where I
nice.
was in monetary value. So I thought I'll go for a complete raw set. So what I would do is I'd buy a collection. And if I had a gold star in, I'd keep it. And if it didn't, I wouldn't. I'd buy it, but maybe flip it to then buy a single gold star, like everyone kind of does to a degree now. Just there's
Sure.
way more competition. Um,
Were you
I
looking at as personal collection items, or were you
yeah,
looking at as just inventory for your business? Because I know you kind of mentioned it, but you are full time in Pokemon. This
yeah.
is your full time 9 to 5 gig in a way.
Yeah, back then, a lot of it was like a freeway split in a way. It was a lot for my collection, a lot for my partner's collection, and the other stuff was just to sell to then get money back in and then do it all again. If we broke even on everything we bought, we were super happy because we were adding stuff to the collection. She was really happy because she collected Pikachu's and was trying to complete every set at one point, master set like Rattle is doing, but we like soon learned that that was impossible, so we just kind of stopped.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like I was just building up stuff. So I had like a goal of having every single shiny Pokemon card or shiny Pokemon that's on a card. So your gold stars, your original Neo Shinings, the SLs from
Yeah.
Call of Legends, the
All legends.
SHs from the Platinum era. And that was like my focus for a very long time. The gold stars took me around 12 to 13 months to pick every single one up. In today's timeline, no one's that patient, but I just was. It was the journey was so much better than owning and stuff that it was just like, yeah, I don't mind taking my time and enjoying it and picking up stuff and flipping and stuff. But that was really early days before I really knew or was in depth as I am now. Again, like I remember TCA Gaming being one of the big people, Gem Mint, SM Pratt, like these are the people I used to watch religiously back in the day, back in them early days. And that's why, like, I'm now meeting them in person and it's like amazing. It's like,
Yeah, because you were one of the people that was at Rusty's house recently
yeah,
for the Charlotte Collecticon, and that was that a cool? Tell me about that experience because I've heard a lot of people's point of views of that day,
yeah,
but I'm curious to hear your point of view because now, and did you meet Rusty on your own, and did you meet him through Chloe? Because I know you're working pretty close with Chloe too.
yeah. So with Rusty, so I met Zach Gem Mint at Worlds and we got along really well. And since that event, when was that? August last year. Um, we've met multiple times at separate events, and I've known of Rusty, and I've talked to Rusty once a long, long time ago on Skype, um, about a collection when I was way too unknowledgeable to talk to Rusty about it. But hey ho, and it like I've always known about him, but I've never really reached out. And when Zach said he was going to Rusty's for the Friday, and I mentioned about coming to Charlotte, he was like, "Do you want me to ask Rusty if you can come to his house? We're all meeting up." And I was like, "That sounds amazing. If that can happen, it would be dream come true. Meeting everyone again because I've met quite a lot of people now from a couple of the collecticons like Dan and John Radar. I've met quite a few people, so it's just nice to like re-see people again. But yeah, the thing at Rusty's was, yeah, it was definitely opened my mind about how big you can get in this hobby. As someone who
Exactly.
is full time, I always want to grow. And you look at what Rusty's doing, I'm like, yeah, what can I do to do anywhere near what Rusty's doing?
It's funny you
Um,
say that because that was my takeaway. I don't have to be Rusty. I could just be an eighth of
yeah,
Rusty. I could be a quarter of what Rusty
yeah,
does, and I'm still like, but
yeah,
I would like to get your thoughts. So you went up to the loft, right? And you saw all the
yeah,
sheets. When you see that for the first time, like what's your initial, because when you think about it, if there was a Pokemon museum that existed in this
yeah,
world, that would be the highlight of an entire collection in a
yeah.
museum. And it's just at Rusty's. Like when you went up to that loft and you saw him, what was your first thoughts?
Yeah, it was breathtaking, right? Like the sheets alone, and I've never been like a massive like sealed or uncut collector, but like that just blew me away. How he has them presented, the history behind it as well. I think people overlook the history behind stuff like that, and it's something that I quite enjoy. And down the years, I remember Rusty picking up some of these sheets and doing the old YouTube videos on them and bits and bobs. So it's just nice to like see them in person.
Hmm.
But yeah, in terms of what Rusty owns and what he's got to show for his long graft through the hobby and what he's managed to achieve, it's really like inspiring, especially for someone like myself.
Yeah. And it's just, and it's the way he achieved it too. He did it very ethically. He did
Yeah,
it doing it the right way. He didn't like cut corners. And it shows you if you don't cut corners, if you do it
yeah,
ethically, there is, I keep calling it like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Like that's definitely, and then just to see what he did, even, from his house to the house he lives at now, I think it's
yeah,
pretty cool. But no, I was happy to hear the way your story was going for that.
yeah.
But
It was awesome.
yeah. So now tell me more. So now I got to dive in a little bit and just like the nuances of the market you're working in because you're working in a different market. A lot of the videos I make, I talk about just the market in the States, how we
Yeah,
source products and stuff. Now, a couple questions. One, do you have a distributor? Are you getting product that way? Or are you just going the single market? And then what is it like selling for you too? Because I know you've been really pushing your eBay store lately. That's
yeah,
where you would do a majority of your sales, but you're going in and you're doing a lot of in-person stuff. You're doing a
yeah,
lot of private sales, and I know you're really right now you're doing a really good job of it, but you're building all your contact list because
yeah,
I think when you get to a certain point in this hobby, it's way easier to pick up the phone and make one phone call than to try to like, kind of put the feelers out there and say, who wants this stuff? But
yeah.
just talk to me like how are you navigating this UK market and what are the big glaring differences you see from what you're doing in the UK versus maybe what some of us are doing in the States? I know that was a
So
big question, but
oh,
sorry.
it's cool. It's cool. So distribution, I currently don't have. I can apply for it. However, I was never really into the sealed market, even early days. Everything we used to buy was to rip. And I was looking, especially in the UK. I don't do this, but obviously I know what Pokey Chloe does and stuff, and I know how small the margins are, and also the amount of people who during the COVID hype got distribution and then the competition that comes with it. My goal of doing this was to have the best singles I could in the UK, and people know me for my singles, for the quality that I have, the range, and that's what I kind of focused on. That's what I enjoyed. So distribution is something that I need to look at eventually, but also due to space, even the margin, the competition in the UK, it's very difficult to get into and make it sustainable. Um, I always say to like people in my Discord all the time, the margin on a booster box is, I think off the top of my head. So if you buy a booster box, it's around £82 or something, from distribution, and you're selling them at like 105. Something that I've learned in the UK that we, as a VAT registered company now, you've got to pay VAT on stuff, you've got your taxes, and before you know it, you're making £5 to £10 on a box, which
Yeah.
in my eyes doesn't make any sense when you can buy a single and make the same amount without having as much investment into it. And also the risk is a lot less for me as a business. Like if I buy 10 cases of boxes and the set's really bad, it's going to take a while to sell it and I might actually lose money on it. However, if I buy, you know, say £10,000 of singles, the market might drop here or there, but I'm going to win on some cases and I might lose on others, and it just works better margins for me.
Yeah,
So that's kind of that. With eBay, I have started to get quite a close relationship with eBay UK. It's a completely different compared to the US. Is completely different. It's like a separate company, which is a shame because like I want eBay Live, eBay Vault. It's not here just yet, but I'm getting involved on eBay a lot more, doing like paid promotions and stuff like with them for that reason to get
that's awesome. You're
yeah
doing that the right way, man. That's
yeah. Because don't get me wrong, eBay is really good, but it's also kind of negative in a way because of the fees involved and the a lot more like non-private deals and stuff goes through, and it's the time, it's the messaging people and the messaging you back, it's people sending you best offers all the time. But for building like a business and a sustainable business, I just feel it's a lot more better to do that and get in with eBay, work with them. To the point now where they want me to do stuff. They want me to go to shows for them and present what I've got in my stock, which is amazing. It's what I wanted to do.
mhm,
Get like a really reputable company like eBay behind me.
yeah,
And then yeah, in person, I've been doing a lot of stuff in person for a couple of reasons. One, again, is really networking. Networking is like the number one thing for me, and I see something, especially in the UK, you go to most collector cons, there'll be a handful of like people from the UK there. And I want to be one of them people. So everybody knows that I'm going to them or going to as many as I can. A lot of people don't and they don't make the effort, which is why they get stuck in the UK. I've made so many connections with people from going to collector cons to going to worlds, certain events where them connections would never have been made if it weren't for me making the effort and putting the financial backing behind myself and trusting what I can do.
yeah.
Um,
I think that's a huge part of it. It's one thing to just do the networking, but it's another thing for what you're doing and you're acquiring these cards and you're bringing some of the not just definitely some of the biggest chases of this hobby right now, or at least
yeah,
things that I like to call like the most liquid in this hobby. You're going
yeah,
the Poncho Pikachu route. And then on the higher end too, like all these Art Academy cards, these Gold Star
mm,
cards. And to be honest with you, anybody out there who is curious, like what cards does Sam move? What cards are Sam like interacting with? I'm telling you, first link in the description of this video is Sam's Instagram page. You can go and you damn near can't even scroll to the bottom of it. Like it just seems
yeah.
like
There's a lot.
it seems to be just in a way never ending. So
Mm,
I just can imagine that I would definitely call that like the higher end inventory, and higher end in this hobby, that word gets thrown around all
yeah,
different places. But I just say anything over $1,000 as a baseline
yeah,
because when you talk cards greater than 1,000 in this hobby versus anything sub 1,000, it's an easy dividing line. But you're definitely dealing with that greater than $1,000 cards.
yeah. Um, yeah. So with my eBay over I'd say the last 6 months, I've become a little bit snobbish with it, where I'm like trying to outdo every single post that I do. So everything's got to be high end to a degree, but also very cool. And sometimes, like but I remember early days where I'd post a lot of stuff and just anything and everything. But I kind of got to the point where, yeah, I want to have a better post than the one I did before. I want to keep buying the high end, the cool, the unusual, so people are seeing what I'm buying and selling. Because as much as for the business, buying alt art modern is perfect. I can buy that and sell it at a crazy rate at shows and on eBay and stuff. I also kind of like the high end. I like playing with the margins and the market with them, and sometimes it works really well, other times not so great. But I've done again off the ponchos really well off ponchos in the last 6 to 8 months, incredibly well.
And dude,
Um,
that's the perfect timeline for a card like Poncho. It's just
yeah,
and you just said the timeline exactly. Last 6 to 8 months, and maybe you
yeah,
could even stretch it out a year. But yeah, how quickly those cards have just gone up in price. And I mean, I had I would call it like one of the lower end Poncho Pikachus. It's a 2014 Mega Tokyo Pikachu. It was a one given out at the Pokemon Center. It's not the
Yeah,
full art, but it's still got a
yeah,
Pikachu in a poncho outfit. And I had that in my case set in Charlotte. And that was one of those cards that when people will walk by and they pointed to that every time. And everybody who had the actual full art poncho, the true Poncho
yeah.
Pikachus, every single person is interested in them. And the fact that you were able to get in and do what you were doing in that sort of 8 to 6 month timeline, you did a great job, man.
Yeah, I kind of picked a couple of like cards to focus on, and that's something I kind of do quite regularly, where I'll pick a selection of cards that I think these have potential and they're also not going to cost me in the long term. So the ponchos, I also picked up a lot of the Japanese Worlds cards, which also done incredibly well for me. And I also had buyers, like as I was sending them to grade, I had buyers ready if they came back in tens. So it was like instant liquid for me. And
It's gotta feel great to know
yeah,
you had that lined up.
at one point I was getting stuff in and it was going. I couldn't keep my stock quick enough. Today it's a little bit different. The market's obviously changed, especially in the UK. It's a little bit slower. A lot of things have dropped from that kind of peak, say
What do you
three or
think the
four months
reason for
ago.
that is? You think that's like an overall macro, just the world economy as a whole is just kind of lagging a little bit, or do you just think it's maybe a little bit of the hype that was in Pokemon's dying?
Yeah, I think from my opinion, a lot of the buyers from China were in like manipulating in a way the market. They were doing stuff that was never been done before. And I think a lot of people then got on a kind of hype train, like, your waifus, a lot of the Japanese stuff, they went insane. Like cards I'd lost a lot of money on because of it have now dropped down to the price I sold it at originally. I had a funny story, the Master Battle set,
Yep.
the black box with the Alola Friends and the Pikachu. I remember buying one of them sealed from someone who approached me. It was around, I think it was $2,000. And I opened the box, I risked it. They both got PSA 10s.
Oh, yeah.
I sold the Pikachu and the Alola Friends. I think I made $3,000 on them. Um, Go forward 3 months, maybe. I had a friend who had the Alola Friends. She reached back out and she sold it to me. It was like slowly going back up, but we came to an agreement. It was probably, I had an idea it was going to sell for this much, and we came to a decent price. So I sold it. I had my Chinese buyer. He instantly bought it. Um, 2 weeks later, it had tripled in price. So I sold it for $4,000 or $4,200. It went to like $12,500. But you can't win them all. And
Yeah.
also, you can't predict the future, and it's one of them things in Pokemon.
That's one of those things about Pokemon. You could kind of always live in the past and always say
Yeah,
well, what ifs and stuff, but you gotta always say like if you're doing this as a business, that $4,000, that's gonna allow you to now do four
yeah,
thousand dollars worth of plays. And the only problem is that timeline you're talking about is like so truncated that
yeah,
it's tough. But yeah,
yeah,
sometimes you just gotta keep the money moving and don't always look at your
definitely.
losses and look at your wins sometimes.
Yeah, because again, with that money I sold that for, I then bought other stuff, and over time it makes just as much money in return. So
Yeah.
it's not a big thing, but there's a few things like that where maybe sold a little bit too early, should have been a little bit wiser to what was happening, but wasn't. But again, I also made a lot of really good plays, which made up for it in the long term. Um, but yeah, the hobby at the minute, especially in the UK, is a little oversaturated, I would say. There was a lot of people doing the same thing, and no one's really too original. A lot of people are selling the sealed product, the binders. Everyone has like the slabs, and it doesn't really move too much. It's a difficult one. I think we're going to be in for a tough 3 or 4 months till after Christmas, and then something might pick up again. There might be a new hype that comes into the market, and that always spurs stuff on to people to get more involved, to maybe risk their money. I also feel like a lot of people might have got burnt in the UK from the waifu hype. People overpaid for stuff, overstretched, and now they've kind of got a bit more nervous. They don't want to invest as strongly as they did once before. So yeah, it'd be interesting. It's a weird market.
Yeah, and you're not just in the UK. You're in pretty much all these different European markets. I know
Yeah.
recently on your Instagram story you just partnered with, I believe, a like not a Collecticon, but a collectible convention out of Scotland, correct?
Yep. Yep. That's
So
correct.
what's that been like where you're now branching a little bit out of UK? Are you doing just all the main countries or just pretty much anywheres where you see an opportunity is kind of where you're going right now?
Yeah. So Scotland, we've ended this year. It was the it was a 2-day event, and it was relatively successful for us. So I was like, why not give it another go? I really like the guy who runs it, and they've moved into a bigger venue.
What is the
Um,
comparison like opposed to a Collecticon? Is it half the people, a quarter of the people? I'm sure it can't be as big, right?
no, it's nowhere near. So I would say a Collecticon is maybe 10 times the size of some of
Okay.
these shows, if not more. I think I'm not sure exactly how many people go through a door of a Collecticon. I imagine it's in the tens of thousands at some of them.
Hmm.
The Scotland show, for example, did just under 1,000 people at the last event. Even
That's
the
still good though when you think about it.
Yeah, I think people seem to forget that the UK is a much smaller place than the US. The amount of people who collect is smaller. The amount of people who are happy to travel to all these places are smaller. And obviously, with collecticons, they're like the main ones. We don't really have in the UK like a main show that travels the country. They're all like separate entities of people doing startups and trying to get involved in that kind of market. And no one really like works together to a degree. It's all like separate. So for me as a business, I did a lot of vending last year, and now I'm getting to the point where I'm picking and choosing the locations, the events, whether it's 1 or 2 day, what works best for the business, because that's ultimately what I've got to look for and look to do. Some events I'm starting to like see the difference of the oversaturation. Not as many people go into the events as they did 6 months ago, 8 months ago. So yeah, it's like you just got to kind of pick and choose now where you feel you will benefit the most. And it's difficult because you want to go to every single one, but it's physically impossible.
So somebody in the chat just said PK Scotland is in the UK. See, that shows you how little I know when it comes to like the different geographics of like UK and Europe and stuff. But are you so you mentioned seeing fewer people and having to be more picky and choosy of which ones you go to.
Yeah.
Is that worrisome for you, or are you just so like maybe call it bullish on on overall Pokemon that while maybe some of these events are seeing a little less people, it still makes you feel good about the
Yeah.
hobby?
Yeah, I feel like there's still the same amount of people. Like you got to remember as well, I came from 2011, 2012. There was nobody in the hobby back then. It was so quiet. So even today's market, to see like 1,000 people at an event is really like good. It's really nice to see. It's more the fact that like too many people are doing it in the UK, and there's not like any flagship events really, which I think is kind of hurting it to a degree. But to see the amount of people a lot of the same people who travel the whole country going to every event, kind of like the people who go to every single Collecticon, it is nice to see. It's nice to show that the hobby is strong. It's again, I think it's going to be a hobby for life. I don't see it ending anytime soon. I can't see why it would. So it's positive for me. Yeah, in terms of like business wise, I've just got to the point where some don't make sense to go to. And like when I came to Charlotte, it's actually more beneficial for me to go abroad to the US and do a collector-con, meet the people I need to meet, buy inventory that no one really in the UK has and bring it back. Because it just
Mm.
makes so much more sense, like just long term for me.
Yeah, see, that's got to be. I didn't even really consider that, like just being able to have that inventory. While I know the inventory you're talking about, why it's not overly like abundant in the
Yeah.
States, I can see how that kind of stuff can be that much rarer in the UK. And if you're the one that has that, that really puts your name on the map. So that's something I didn't really consider. But we talked earlier, and I know we talked a little bit in Charlotte Collecticon. I know you're working with Pokey Chloe pretty close, and I see
Yeah.
your average players in here. And
I
we
said,
actually talked about your average player
yeah.
when it's there. So tell me a little bit, like what's your relationship like with Pokey Chloe? Are you, because she's dealing with mainly sealed product. Are
Yeah.
you guys working, are you guys more just friends, or are you guys becoming business partners or what?
Um, so with Chloe and with her husband Harry. I went and did their old podcast, the Pokey podcast. I think was it March last year now? It was well over a year ago. I think I was their first in-person guest. They wanted people from the UK to, if come onto the podcast, if you could get there and talk about everything. And we kind of, that they've always been like someone that I kind of look towards or look at as someone like a business I want to be. I've always like inspired to get where they are in their level and what they do. I've seen vintage boxes, some of the highest end slabs go through their hands, and I'm always jealous. But we've been to so many of the same events now, and we know the same crowd where it's like, we are friends. I'd class them as friends. Hopefully they think the same. But yeah, we go to a lot of the international events together. You'll always see us at like, we were at Car Party together, Worlds together. A lot of the collecticons, we kind of go to the same ones because it makes sense. There's La Gala in Paris where we all went to. We do a lot of the same things, and me and Harry especially, which is Chloe's husband, we have been doing some deals together. Some that have worked out really well, others not so much. You'll know what I'm talking about if he watches this. But it is what it is. I've always really enjoyed working with them in one way or another, whether it's me buying some sealed product off them from distribution, or it's buying singles and we grade together and we split the profit. But yeah, we've always got on really well since that first kind of meeting at the podcast, and it's kind of just grown and grown from there. But yeah, they're going super fast. I can't keep up. I try to, I just can't. Every time I think I get a little bit close to them, they just do the next thing, and I'm like, right, I've got to step up my game again and try and chase them. But it's good for me as a business. It's really good to have that inspiration.
So when you were talking just now, you mentioned one of the events that you went to. We went to the event with them, but it's something that I've heard like nobody in the States ever talking about. It's that La Gala event, the one
Yeah.
that was held in Paris. For any, and to be honest with you, I bet you a lot of people watching this live aren't going to even know that event took place or what it was. But was it like a black tie Pokemon event? Because I know there were some pretty big collectors there, and I want to say, was Dubsy there maybe?
Yeah, Dubsy was there. So shout out to Mr. Fuji.
Yeah, I saw your photo with Mr. Fuji too.
Yeah. It's Mr. Fuji's event, Legala, and it is a bit of a posh spin on a Pokemon event, but I enjoy myself so much. The 2-day event itself, like, is in what was at the venue, was a lot different for us. It was all obviously French cards. There was not much English, not much Japanese. It's a different market. Every European country has a slightly different market. So in terms of like picking stuff up to resell, not much of that happened. But yeah, the black tie event, or the evening Legala dinner, which is what they called, it was the best thing I've experienced in Pokemon since I've been doing it. To the point where, you're going into this little private room and you've got illustrators on display, snap cards on display, all like museum pieced up in the cabinets. You've got all Dubsy's card, his original artworks that he's picked up from the artist, his line of trainers, and then everyone's there like in suits and drinking champagne. It felt very like a different kind of event, and it was really like cool. And the dinner was next level. I've never experienced anything like that. It gave me chills at one point when the band started playing the original theme song of Pokemon, and I'm like, yeah, what are we doing here? How we ended up at this place? But yeah, Legala, if you've never been and you want to go somewhere like in a European space with the highest end collectors, Legala is amazing. I know Zach Mint was there, and he enjoyed himself. We had a great time.
Yeah. No, that's one of those events that I've heard about so many times, but I've like never experienced it. And I've known very few people that have actually experienced it. So that's awesome. And especially what Dubsy's doing in this hobby, especially on the really the highest possible end. It's pretty wild. And I know he's doing a lot of stuff, and I know some of the purchases he's done. I know some of the items he's bought, especially have you seen his 1, 2, 3, like the half art Pikachu, the full hand drawn Arita artwork?
Yeah.
So do you ever
Yeah.
see where it says to Michael?
Oh, that so the original sketches of the
Yeah, and
Arita
they're
one.
like
So
graded in the big PSA slabs.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think he brand them with him to La Gala. I don't think I've seen them. Obviously, I've seen the
Okay.
images online, but I don't think they're in his display case from what I can remember. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
But he had his trophy peakers there. He had some Shikishis there and stuff, and it was yeah, it was great. The amount of money and cards in that room, and it wasn't a massive function room, was unbelievable. It was yeah, it was crazy.
In the millions upon millions of
Yeah,
dollars sitting in
yeah,
one room in
definitely,
Pokemon.
definitely.
Yeah. It's wild that some people are able to interact with the hobby at that level,
Yeah,
where we'll talk on this about Poncho Pikachus and Art Academy cards, and then when you get to this highest end, and it's like,
yes,
well, the price disparity between a half art, PSA 7 versus a half art PSA 10, number one, number two, when honestly, like they're all so incredibly rare to begin with. There should
yeah,
not be price disparities, but we live in this weird hobby where people still value that 10 so much higher.
yeah.
It's
Everybody wants that turn.
exactly. It is wild when you think about it. But no, that's awesome that you're at that event. And I know you also mentioned you were at Worlds, and when you were at Worlds, you guys were doing a lot of like pack opening and stuff. You guys opened a lot of like vintage product, and for whatever reason it didn't get filmed. You want to talk a little bit about that? Like for whatever you can talk about it.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's like quite a common thing now where Harry, Chloe's husband, will they always bring a load of sealed vintage packs to everywhere we go. And I don't want to name names, but a lot of people love to buy and rip high end. Um, well, not even high end, just like sealed vintage packs, just for the thrill, just to like kind of let the hair down. And in Japan, again, I don't want to name like loads of names, but there was a certain night where there was quite a few YouTubers in that room, and we were all having a good time, bottles of wine, sake. Some packs got ripped, a lot of packs got ripped, and it was like some of the best times. And this is, when I compare my experiences to what I get in the UK to when I actually go international and do the Pokemon events, I enjoy the events so much more internationally, like Worlds, Collecticons, and that, because stuff like this happens. I don't know if you've seen the clip at Card Party. I can't remember who. There's quite a few clips of Harry having this like acrylic case of packs opening, and there's a big crowd of people around, and like Lee's opening a load of packs. Harry is, John's opening packs, and there's like this like huge crowd just spurring people on. Everyone's like, it's crazy. The stuff you do in the US, especially compared to the UK, is just in the evenings as well. Them
Yeah.
hotel lobbies are dangerous,
Yeah.
but it's so much more enjoyable. I at one point was ripping a lot of vintage packs. I'd have a good show, for example, I'd buy a pack, and to the point where I was getting 8s on every holo and was like, why am I doing this? I'm losing
Welcome to
money.
Watsy grading. Yeah.
I opened me and Harry and a night and a few other friends ripped around $10,000 of packs vintage, and I got 110 out of the 6 packs I opened. I
What was the
opened the
10 at
first.
least?
Oh, it was a Brock's Nine Tails from Jim, so it was okay. It covered the price of the pack just.
Yeah.
But I opened like heavy fourth print base set. Pulled I think it was an Alakazam. It had damage on it. It's like typical.
Yeah.
What else did I rip? A Neo Discovery First Edition pack. I pulled the Yammer. It looked like
Yeah,
Wolverine had
that's one of
clawed
the
it.
toughest 10s you
Yeah,
could possibly get. If you hit the 10 on that, that's like winning the lotto.
yeah. It looked like Wolverine had clawed it, and it got an 8. And I'm like,
Which
I
is
just
pretty damn near spot on for a
yeah,
Yama from
yeah. At this point, I don't really rip too much anymore because I just always lose. It's fun,
yeah.
but I lose too much.
That's funny though. But dude, it's awesome how you're interacting with the hobby, doing all these events. And is this, I mean, you've already kind of mentioned it earlier where you're saying it's really great for connection and everything, but is this something you see potentially like slowing down, or you're just going to go full throttle with traveling? Because traveling got to get expensive when you're talking going to
Yeah,
worlds in Japan, when you're talking about all these, like for you, everything's a plane ride too,
yeah.
because And then when you're talking about going to the States, and then I'm guessing you're probably going to be at Worlds in Hawaii next year.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're going to be at Card Party in June, but
Yep.
there's all these events. Every single one of those involves hotel, plane.
Yeah.
Is that something you find daunting, or you just, and how are you able to navigate that aspect? Is that something where you're sort of trying to line up deals before you get there? So by lining up deals before you get there, you already in a way could pay for that trip.
Yeah. So this year, especially, I've spent, again, like you said, a lot of money traveling. But I've spent it on the idea of what I will get out of it long term. But the goal for me is, if I go to a collector con, if I went to Card Party, I went to Japan, if I can buy enough stuff to break even on an event, I'm basically getting all that connections, the time, the enjoyment for free. It's maybe my time, and maybe I've got to put more effort into it. And sometimes I know at Card Party I'd get up as the vendors opened, and I'd be there for like 2 or 3 hours just doing deals. And then I'd get enough stuff and be like, right, I can kind of relax. So sometimes it is a bit of pressure to make sure I can recoup the trip, because obviously it's not sustainable to just fly everywhere, go to every event. So the idea is, if I can buy enough stuff and stock and different things where it makes sense, and I can break even a lot of these ones, especially this year, that's not a problem. I'm happy to do that. Obviously, yeah, meeting people and the connections is so important to me this year. Next year, I like to say that I'm not going to do as many events, but we were working out, I think it was yesterday or the weekend. I've already planned six
Oh,
trips
wow.
away. And that's your Card Party. We've already booked hotels for Hawaii already. There's Orlando in February, the CollectorCon. There's multiple Legalas. Like, straight away, I'm not even to the start of the year yet, and I've already booked 5 trips. So it's difficult, but also, if you can make it sustainable, where even if you're not doing the biggest of deals and you're just like buying enough stock to cover your costs and that, it's worth it, right? Because I feel like as soon as you shut yourself off and like don't go to the events, people will soon be wondering why, and then wondering why you've not come. And there's reasons like that. And obviously you can't go to every event, and I know that more than anyone now after this year. But there's a lot that I want to see certain people. I want to go to this event because of this reason. And whether that is setting up deals beforehand, the main reason I went to Charlotte was because I had a mysterious pearl graded in a 9 for a middleman in the US, and he sent it to Rusty's. So
Okay.
I went there to pick up the pearl to see if I could move it at that collecticon, which I didn't. But then I ended up buying, I think I spent around $12,000 on singles, which have gone right into my binders. And every time I do a show in the UK now, it's recouping that money that I've spent. So as long as I do that, it's not an issue for me. I enjoy it so much that, a couple of hours grinding here or there and buying this and taking a risk on that makes so much more sense for me.
Yeah. So you just talked about picking up 12 grand just in singles for like the market you're interacting with. What do you feel is like the most liquid cards for you? And everything like I talked about can't be high end. They can't all be
Yeah.
$1,000 plus cards, but is there
Totally.
something that maybe the UK market is focusing on a little bit more? Is it that most ultra modern stuff? Is it the WotC? Is it the Nintendo? Is it the Diamond and Pearl Black and White, etc.? Like, what do you find is the most liquid for you, or what works best for you without spilling too, and because you're from the UK, without spilling
Yeah.
too much tea and giving up too
So
many replays?
so for me, I always make sure I'm buying modern. I want to have the most amount of alt arts in a binder, the most amount of alt arts in a display case. And I kind of do it to a point where I have too much of something. So, like, I found from Charlotte, I've sold out of a lot of stuff already that I picked up, which now I'm like, oh, I wish I'd picked up this and picked up that. But a lot of it's just alt arts, modern alt arts, but then I'll also branch into like older eras that we don't get as much and it's not as available. So your XY full arts, your black and white full arts, Sun and Moon, some cards there are really good just to have in binders. So the idea for when I vend is I'll have one binder, it's all modern, but it'll be full arts, alt arts, golds all the way throughout, and they'll have an X and Y binder and a black and white binder exactly the same. So basically, I'm just replacing what sells when I go to events. if I remember what I've bought, because the multiple times I'll go and I'll start counting my cards after the end of the day, and I'll be like, why have I picked up 6 Espeon and Deoxys GXs?
Yeah.
I only needed 4. I do that regularly, but that's because I see it and it's such a good price. I'm like, I'll just buy it, it'll sell eventually. So that's mainly the reason. It makes so much more sense because the stock's available in the US. We're in the
And
UK.
dude, your binders at these shows must be so much better than other people's with all the inventory you just described and all the things you're picking up with all these alt arts and, big tag team
Yeah.
cards. It's got to be when you're looking at most people, they have bulk Vs, and here's
Yeah.
your table with everything.
Yeah, well, that was the idea when I said earlier, like I wanted to have the best singles, and that was the case for a little bit. And there's now a few more people who have got in and kind of seen what I've done and tried to take their own spin on it, and they have really good binders now. But that was mainly because of the bigger deals and a lot of PSA stuff. Whereas now when I go away, I'm like more focused on I need to get more singles again. I want to have the best binders so people come. And I get a lot of compliments of people saying your binders are the best we've seen, or your display case is like the coolest one we've seen with all these alt arts. And that's what I want, because the people who remember you then come back the next time. And it's all about making that impression. We haven't gotten to the point of plushes yet, which is my main impression from
Yeah.
people
So,
seeing it at shows.
well, yeah, so we will talk about plushies because that's something that is an area of the market that we never really talk about on this channel.
Yeah,
We're always talking mainly about just the TCG
yeah,
and the cards and whether it's graded. But no, you did mention that there's some people out there copying your plays, and there is that saying like the greatest form of flattery is imitation.
yeah,
So you should look at it as a good way that people are
yeah,
seeing how successful you are with these binders, so they're copying those plays. But yeah, let's get into plushies because I do feel that that is within itself a niche market, which Pokemon's already this niche market.
yeah.
But I've seen your Instagram pages. Yeah, you've every single show you're at, your backdrop is covered with plushies. You want to like walk us through that whole buying and selling
Yeah.
experience?
So the plushies, like me and my fiance have been into plushies for ages. Like we love them. It's something great to have on display. You can probably see in my background. I have literally tons here. Where's my finger? Here.
Yeah, it's
And
always hard.
they're everywhere. And I kind of got really lucky. I stumbled across a friend, or a friend of a friend who, because of the COVID thing, ended up living in Thailand. And he got in touch and he now distributes my plushes for me. And they're all Pokemon sent there. They're all Banpresto Tommy official plushes. He gets them from a distributor that gets distributed and he distributes them to me, is the easy way
Oh,
to say it.
that's a nice little middleman you got right there.
So I was really lucky, but I was thinking, if you're at a show and you're an adult and you have a child with you or a kid, and you kind of want to get them something, but you don't want to buy them a card, right? Because, like we all do, there's a card's just a card. But if they have a plush, it can go on their bed, go on their shelf. Even adults want to do that as well. But it was more like to get the kids coming over to the like vendor table when I'm vending. And a lot of people now know me for the plushes more than the cards, which is
Oh,
kind of
interesting.
crazy. But I have so many and I just keep buying them every time they're offered to me because they're such a good source of income. Again, we're talking about margins. I get so much margins on my plushes that sometimes I'm like, I could just quit the cards and sell plushes full time. It'd be great.
Yeah. Oh, that's wild. No, I mean, that's good. I'm glad you found a nice little niche that works so well for you.
Yeah.
And shout out to Mason Cardinal Gaming. One of the things he was talking about was when he was vending Charlotte Collecticon, one of the things that moved for him greater than he thought was the plushies. And I
Yeah.
think when you're selling plushies, when other people like Mason are selling plushies, when people aren't bringing that sort of inventory there, because that inventory is bulky. I mean, you can't just bring one rolling suitcase like I did
Yeah.
full of slabs. You got to bring multiple boxes and then the racks to display all
Yeah.
these. So just that one barrier of entry, it's just being bulkier. Like you
Yeah.
already like cut the competition down so drastically. So
Yeah.
that's smart that you're doing that, man.
Yeah. It's good and also bad. Like you said, it's really bulky. I haven't
Yeah.
really got a living room at the minute. It's just places to store plushes. And like you're saying, I just invested in all new like metal shelving, which was in my last Instagram picture of the show I did it 2 weeks ago now. It's the first time I was trialing it, but it just makes it look so much more professional.
Sure.
But obviously, it just takes space, and you know, it's bad enough just doing Pokemon full time in where I'm doing it in my office. But then when you go downstairs, there's bags of plush everywhere, and then there's display stuff here and there. It is
Okay.
difficult, but also it's for the bigger picture in my eyes. Eventually, I'll get somewhere to store all this, or we'll move to a bigger house, and then I'll go in a room and no one will ever go in there, and it's fine.
And it'll just be the Pokemon room, and we don't open
Yeah,
that door.
yeah, that door's shut for everyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great. I love dealing in the plushes. It's something cool, and it's also just a different type of stock. If I don't do sealed, why not do something else, right? It's kind of the same bulkiness, not as much, but it's just slightly different.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So a little bit ago, I just opened up to the chat. I said, if anybody has any questions for Sam, now's the time. So Sean McClellan said, what was Sam's first YouTube video introduction? So I do know you mentioned you were opening some Plasma Blast boxes, but why do you have this smile on your face? Is there a crazier YouTube introduction than that?
No. So Sean is from my Discord.
Okay.
No, so we used to be called All About Pokemon. I don't think you can search it now, it is there, but it's me, it's basically me and my fiance, we'd rip stuff. So it's just like, hey guys, it's all about Pokemon here kind of thing. But I don't wanna, that's just too cringy to think about. That was
that would have actually been a good YouTube channel for the long run, all about Pokemon. That could have lasted.
Yeah, we were doing okay. We used to go to a lot of the events in the UK, like the smaller ones, and pick up product and then rip it, and distribution was a lot easier. So we'd be able to get cases of XY and stuff from distribution, and it not cost us too much. Like we opened a case of Flashfire, it was like $70 a box.
Oh, nice.
Which I think is on the channel, but we used it mainly for trading. It was before Instagram. And I don't know if you remember, the people used to do like trade by post and bought cards by mail, and free cards through mail and stuff. Like everyone used to do that on the YouTube channel, so it was just like something that we kind of did as well, I guess.
Okay. No, that's awesome. Chef 954 said favorite set or card, and he's pretty much talking chase card.
Favorite set is, it's a difficult one, that one. So I have a master set of Fire Red Leaf Green, EX Fire Red Leaf Green.
Shout out to Nickel to Go Pokemon. That's his favorite set too.
Yeah, and that's probably what I'd say my favorite set. I think the EXs and the reverses and some of the artwork's really cool.
Oh, reverse is definitely with the Cosmos
really cool.
feel to
so again, going back, I picked up 2 complete reverse sets of Fire Red Leaf Green for probably like $100 back in the day, and it's all pack fresh. We just left it in binders, and I think it was maybe like 6 months ago, I just realized I hadn't got all the the regular uncommon, commons, and rares, so I picked up that set, and now I have a complete master set, and I'm like, why did I not do this earlier? But single card, that's a tough one. I would say single card is a little bit niche, so it's probably going to be an Art Academy card, and it's going to be the. Is it going to be the space or the? I'm going to say the Mew Art Academy card drawn by Famp, I think it is.
That's on your Instagram, right?
No, it's one that I should have bought probably about 6 months ago now. There was 2 listings from the original seller on eBay, and I didn't, and I regret not doing it up until this day. But probably that one. Mew's my favorite Pokemon.
Okay,
Art Academies.
I'm looking at it right now. It's the 2015 Pokemon Art Academy Mew competitive. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's German. It's just, I really like the artwork on it.
Yep, German,
it's probably the greatest chase of a card that I've got at the minute in terms of like Mew, and it kind of is both Art Academy and favorite Pokemon. So it's probably that one currently.
That's a good answer, man. That is nichey. I wouldn't. A lot of people don't even know that. I couldn't picture that card when you first said it. So that's a nice little niche.
Yeah.
But if it's your favorite card, man, that just means you got to own it someday. You got to showcase it.
Like I said, I should have. There was 2 copies. One was just a German auction, and one was an international one. And I had someone bidding for me on the German auction, thinking it would go cheap. and someone else from Germany wanted that card, which I was unaware of, and they outbid me. And it is what it is. But
That's the problem with
eventually,
cards like that. It just takes two people to
yeah,
make prices go insane.
yeah, it was crazy. But eventually, I'll get it. It's on the list.
Uh, I don't know if this is Pokemon Princess Nicole. If she's from your Discord too. I think
Yeah.
she's trolling a little bit. She said, "Who's your favorite waifu?" Be careful. A lot of these trainers are under 10.
Oh no. Who's the oldest one? Is Juniper the oldest one?
Maybe I know probably Opal. Opal. I think she's like,
Opal.
yeah. I wouldn't consider her a waifu though. She's probably the oldest. She's the grandma.
In terms of artwork, on the cards, it's got to be probably Acerola.
Mm,
I just
yeah.
really like the purples in the cards, and they always
Oh,
kind of
and
pop for
plus
me.
there's so many Mimikyus on her cards
Yeah,
too. Yeah.
so probably Acerola. Nicole already knew that though.
Yeah, it's not really a waifu card per se, but it definitely
Yeah,
has Acerola in it. But it's from Brilliant Stars. It's just one of the trainer art
yeah,
cards with Mimikyu watching the TV with his shadow in the
yeah,
background. And then Acerola is walking through the door frame like shocked.
yeah,
That is one of my absolute favorite modern cards. So
yeah. Super cool. I really like them Brilliant Stars like connotations from the trainer galleries of the trainers and the Pokemon there. They're really nice.
I think Zetro's trolling a little bit. He said, "How tall is he?" You don't have to answer that.
Wow.
But I think people are just trolling.
Yeah, Alfie, you already know how tall I am. I'm like five
Uh,
foot four, 5'5", I think, something like that. I'm not massive.
Leaf Green Goblin said, "What card do you hope to be made in the next few years? Do you have like that dream Pokemon collab or dream Pokemon
Mm,
card?"
Not really. I don't really think that far ahead. I don't think. Dream Pokemon card. I don't know. Anything with a really cool Mew artwork would be cool, like a Japanese exclusive one. That's what I kind of collect, Japanese exclusive artworks and tens of Mew and stuff. So something like that would be really cool.
Um, so people are people are still trolling. I love you gotta love the chat, especially you brought in all your trolls. You could
I
always
know.
tell people that are your friends by reading the questions. But people are I mean, this is a good question. I don't really know the answer, so I would like to hear it. When you're traveling abroad and you're traveling so much, how are you able to travel with that sort of inventory? Because you got to be talking check baggage, you got to be talking going through, I don't know what the UK equivalent of like
Yeah.
TSA is, but you got to be worried about putting higher end stuff in your luggage. You can't just have everything as a carry-on, no?
Well, yeah. So I never put anything in my luggage. I always check a suitcase. I always carry my cards on me. So the most I've ever took with me was to Orlando, and that was when I took all my art academies to CGC to get them graded the first time, and then when I brought them back, I probably had $150,000 in a small case, and it was in my backpack the whole time. And I kid you
It's
not, the amount of
nerve-wracking,
people.
right?
It is to a degree, but I also think that if people don't know, they don't know. If someone recognizes me, and then they're more likely going to know that I'm carrying something, but no one's going to recognize me. I hardly show my face on Instagram, very rarely, and it's in a
You're
group of
screwed now,
people.
man. This everyone's gonna
Well,
know you in the Pokemon community now. This
um,
video is gonna get between 1 to 3,000 views. So
but a lot of times I do get my bag checked, and they will take out my little case, which I do have it. Yeah. So it'd be like this one.
okay.
So it holds probably about 20 cards in PSA slabs, maybe. But they do take it out my bag, and they do ask me to open it. And some people are cool with it. Again, when we went to Charlotte, it got checked twice, and people were taking it out and being like, "Oh, what's this?" And it's Pokemon. If they know Pokemon, they're like super cool with it. But also, like, I've had the time where did I come back from Paris? And I just had my Arita signatures in there, just in semi-rigids, and they were literally pulling every card out. And I'm like, please don't damage my Arita signatures. Which they didn't, but like some people obviously, it looks a bit weird on the scanner, I imagine, when there's just like stacks of plastic and cardboard in a case
But
with
wait,
a
they
lock
took the
on.
card out of the semi-rigid?
Yeah, one of them they
Oh,
took out, and I might just please, and that because I had it quite. I did I buy a few things, or I took quite a lot with me, in case there was extra signings or
Dude,
different people
that's
going
like a
on.
nightmare situation to have some TSA employee pulling out your Arita Sigs, man. Just like,
Yeah,
oh, let me, oh,
yeah, and they
give
were
me
like
chills.
putting the semi-rigid in. It was like wobbling a bit, and I might just please just put it back in. Just please don't damage my cards. But it's one of them. It's always the risk. I've traveled enough times now with a lot of value on me where I feel comfortable doing so because I just don't feel anyone's gonna pinpoint me and go, that's the guy we need to take his stuff. But yeah, it is nerve-wracking, but also I just feel like if I've got it on me all the time, and I don't, I'll either put it in a safe in the hotel room or I'll have it on me. I feel a lot more comfortable. But like at one point, I was carrying my art academies around me at every event, and I've stopped that now because it just seems stupid. And just carry the stuff I want to trade or sell.
Yeah, I'm looking over at the chat right now. So first of all, your experiences traveling abroad, insane, especially that Arita like situation. That's going to be something that I'll probably bring up on this channel for the next 10 years. So anytime people talk about like traveling with cards, but
Yeah.
no, it is funny. You brought a pretty great group of people in here. It's funny to watch a lot of people trolling. I see Billy and Rubik's in here too. Do you know Billy and
Hey Billy.
Rubik's?
Oh, I know Billy and Rubik's just a little bit, just a tiny.
Billy, yeah, Billy's saying she's seen your living room before.
Yeah, a lot of people on the Discord have seen because I used to do this thing where I'd get like all my plushes in, and then I'd like empty them out and then show everyone, and people would pick out. But I've got to the point where now there's 1,000 plushes in my living room in bags, and I'm just like they come in, they go there, and I just forget about them. So
So, question from Rattle Pokemon. He said, "Question for Sam: Why was Meet and Rattle the highlight of your trip in Charlotte?" You were hanging out with Rattle for a decent amount of time, especially in the trade nights at the hotel. Those
yeah,
and you mentioned it earlier. The trade nights of the hotel are definitely one of the best parts of the
yeah,
whole
definitely.
event.
Well, we me and Zach met Rattle on the Thursday, and we went for some ramen, went shooting. Obviously, I've been on Rattle's channel before.
Oh, you went
Um,
to the shooting range with them? Okay, I didn't
Yeah,
know.
we went shooting. We went shooting. Again, it was something new, and I'm like, I've not shot a gun before. That sounds interesting. So we did
Oh, so
that.
you went hard then, because I heard you guys shot a lot of cool guns when you were there.
Well, I'll be honest. I only shot a pistol, and I have no idea what pistol it was. My arm at the minute is a bit dodgy, and I didn't want to like, you know, damage it any further by picking these big like AKs and whatever they were shooting. I have no idea. So
Yeah.
I just played it safe, but I was happy just to shoot a pistol and have a bit of fun. But yeah, there's some people like Zach and Rattle were shooting some big guns, and I was like, I'm glad that isn't me because my shoulder would have give away multiple times. But yeah, it was cool to see Rattle. We'd talked quite a bit, and it's nice to see people in person. And I think that's the main thing. I've now got to the point where a lot of these people I've spoke to online
Hmm.
and I know them quite well. I've met in person, and it's like one of the best things where it builds that relationship a bit more and the connection you have. And there's also stories that every time you see them, you go, "Do you remember this time at such and such?" And it's just, yeah, it's really cool to do that. But yeah, meeting Rattle was really cool. Hopefully, we see him again over CollectorCon.
Oh, we'll see. It's gonna be tough. I think Rattle's already planning to go to the Worlds in Hawaii, so
Oh, right, okay. I'll see you
my
there then, Rattle.
I'm like 10% chance. It's gonna be tough to tell my
Yeah,
wife, "Hey, by the way, I want to go to Hawaii, a place you would love to go on a vacation with me, but I'm gonna
yeah,
go by myself while you stay at home with the kids." That might be a tough
yeah.
conversation.
Like, luckily, we don't have kids, but my fiance comes with me to like some of the bigger events, so World Card Party.
Okay,
Um,
so you could use it
the
as a vacation in a way too.
Yeah, we go together in it again with like the costs and stuff. It's double the amount of flights.
Hmm.
Like Japan cost me well over just on the trip alone, like $12,000.
Yeah.
So it does add a lot on the flights and everything, but also I don't mind doing a bit of extra work so she can come and enjoy the time. And she has friends now which are in the hobby that she spends a lot of time with. So it's great for her to like meet people and communicate. And I think the funniest one is card party. We were there quite early. Was it a Wednesday or a Thursday?
Okay.
And we met Leonhardt and we went into Disney. I don't know the Disney in LA or the area. I don't know what it's called. But
Disneyland.
yeah, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And my fiance Lottie and Lee were just running around like two kids looking at all the fun stuff and getting along like they've known each other for years, and that's what I really enjoy when she's enjoying herself as well at these events. It makes it so much easier for me because it's not like awkward, or I don't feel like I'm leaving her when she has friends, and she's able to like stand on her own 2 feet away and meet the people I know and get along with them. And it's great. As someone who does it full time, it's the best thing having your partner involved in what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. This is something I've gone on the record multiple times saying if you want to be successful in this hobby and be successful at the highest end, if you do not have a supportive like significant other, or if you have somebody that you're constantly having to hide stuff from, constantly trying to like do shady stuff in Pokemon with buys and sells and everything. If you're always struggling to do that, then you're going to have a really, really hard time doing Pokemon at the highest end.
Yeah,
So it's funny you say that, and that's one of like the consensus I've heard throughout this hobby is the significant other is in a way make or break for a
yeah,
lot of people in this hobby. So that's
yeah,
great that you found a significant other that's totally supportive of what you're doing and is enjoying it and taking part in it with you.
yeah. It makes it a lot easier. Like obviously, as a business, it's sometimes difficult to pay the extra bit of flights, and it's double the food and everything. But then at the end of the day, sometimes she's just 2 extra suitcases, which is great for taking stuff back. But it's really good when you can all enjoy yourself and everyone has a good time and doesn't feel like you're leaving anyone out. And it's really good. I enjoy it.
So Mick Nick asked a good question. He said, was it, and I think it's a good question because I feel like everybody might have like that one special moment, but he said, was there a single moment memory event where you realized you wanted to do this for a long time? Did you ever have your like, call it in a way like a aha moment in this hobby or something like maybe you did a sell and you were just like, you know what? I could do this.
Yeah. I think there's a couple that have always kept me in it. So completing my gold star set was one of the things that I had, and was one of them moments where I'm like, I really enjoy Pokemon and I want to do this for a long time. In terms of business, um, I would say probably Worlds in London really opened my eyes and was an event where I'm like, I just love doing this and I can't wait to do it more and more. And sometimes I do too much, and sometimes I should have weekends off and I don't. And plenty of people who tell you I work crazy hard. It's my own business and I'm a one-man band currently, so it's difficult. But yeah, just Worlds, and I think just the numerous events. And I think La Gala in Paris was also one of them moments where I'm in the dinner and I'm sat down in a suit, I'm eating a la carte meal, and I'm on a table with Dubsy and Chloe and Harry and Pokey Dean and some of the biggest collectors, Seaman from Norway and some other huge collectors. And I'm like, yeah, this is what I want to do. Like, you can't recreate these stuff. It's like being in, how can I say it? Like being in a world of celebrities, but in a Pokemon kind of world. And
Yeah.
it's amazing. I enjoy it so much. Like getting to know how these people got into the hobby, how they still are into it, what they buy, what they sell, what their overall goals and why they enjoy it. Like there's a lot of people in it who do it for the wrong reasons, but I'm just kind of lucky to find a lot of the right people who are doing it for the right reasons. And it kind of just kept spurring me on. And yeah, I'm kind of really sold now. I keep investing in bigger stuff, growing the business as big as I can. Obviously, it's not, like I said, super easy as a one-man band. There's only so
Yeah.
much you can expand on, but I'm doing as much as I can do. And so far, I'm really enjoying it. And it's crazy to think where I've come in 2 years.
No, it's awesome, and I think it really shows. I could see how excited you are about Pokemon and how much you're enjoying it. Fresh Tats had kind of like a two-part question. He said, Sam, what are the pros and cons for being a UK seller? Because I think throughout this video, you've already talked about a lot of the pros, the way you're
Yeah.
able to source cards in other parts of the world and kind of bring it over and then be maybe not the only person in the market with those cards, but have very little
Yeah.
competition for a lot of those. But now, what are some of the cons for you? I don't think we really talked about many of the cons.
Yeah. So the cons really is the probably the size of the country. And for me now, knowing how US events are, just the UK events in general, um, in terms of selling, like I spent a bit of time with Dan at Charlotte at his booth, and we sat down and chatted about some business stuff, and he was telling me what he was earning or what he earned the day previously, and I was like, that's crazy. Like there's certain people I know what the biggest companies in the UK do at these shows, and I know what I do, and it's not on that level.
Hmm.
And we sometimes stock, my last show I had 5 tables to a degree of stuff, and I did nowhere near what Dan was doing. And that comes down to just not being enough people. Like if I had collector-con levels of people at my table, I would probably do really well. It's just the people. It's just we haven't got any really mature events. Past like the Comic Cons and stuff, which is very expensive to go to. There isn't really anything that jumps out where I'm like, right, I know I'm going to turn way over 5 figures at this event. Compared to the US, where I feel like most collector cons you go to, and now you have Card Party on top of that. I think you're like near enough. If you have the right stuff, you're guaranteed to do really good numbers. The UK really struggles on that side, and you have to be. You probably have to go to the Comic Cons, and you need to get all that foot traffic. Like most shows, 2,000 people maximum. Most of them are like in the 300s. So it's difficult that way. I don't move as much stock as I'd like to. That's probably the biggest con. And obviously, again, just the overall feel of a UK event just is nowhere near what a US one is.
Do
It's
you
just
see
not the
that
same.
market potentially getting there someday? Maybe not with just quantity of people, but just
Yeah.
like the overall feel of like the buyers and sellers. Do you feel like that in a way, Pokemon is still this emerging market? We like to
Yeah.
pretend like it's an established one, but it's not really. But
Yeah.
if maybe UK's lagging a little bit towards the rest of the world, whether that's the Japanese market, the United States market, do you see it as being something that has the potential to grow? Because it kind of leads into the next question Pokey Snipes asks. He said, Sam, where do you think you'll be in 5 years if you've gone this far in Pokemon in just like the last 2, 3?
Yeah.
And I feel like
Um,
it adds to that question.
yeah. So I think the UK is lagging a little bit. I just feel like in terms of we had London Worlds, which was a crazy event, the biggest Pokemon event that's happened in the UK ever. And we've not no one's replicated the same kind of feel or anything yet. Everything's been a bit small minded and not no one's really took a hall or a venue like the XL in London and gone, right, we're gonna fill this with the biggest US YouTubers of Pokemon, the biggest buyers, the biggest sellers. No one's done that yet. Which I think we will eventually get to. Someone will come along and take that market and it will grow. And there'll be an event in the UK soon where, your YouTubers, your Leonharts, your Real Breaking Nates, even Unlisted Leaf will come over because there'll be a reason to. There just isn't that reason yet. It's yeah, the market's different, a lot different because we don't have the amount of supply that the US does, which doesn't really help. But in terms of like 5 years, I'm not too sure. Realistically, I'd like to have a shop. I'd like to have so many staff working for me and be able to
You
have a
want to
bit more
go the brick and
freedom.
mortar route, huh? That's interesting.
Yeah, so as much as there's a lot of negatives to brick and mortar, there's also a lot of positives. And also where I am in the UK, it's not the same prices as London. I'm a lot more up north towards Liverpool, Manchester. I'm like in the middle of the country, and there's not much for people around here. In terms of like Pokemon, like in the US, you'd probably go within like a 10-mile radius to be like multiple card shops. In the UK, there's probably like one in a 10-mile radius, if that. Probably most places is zero. So I'd like to have a physical shop and then get into the distribution and doing stuff like that. But it's mainly just to make it a bit more sustainable. A lot of my plays, as to say, have been a lot of not high risk, high reward, but they've been, riskier plays where a lot of people might not took the risk, but I've just felt comfortable doing it. And obviously going over to the US, and while the market's so strong in the UK to US prices, I'll just use that benefit as much as I can to just keep buying stuff and bringing it over. But there will be a point, I suppose, where either like with everything, the market might die a little bit or die down, and I need a bit more of a sustainable or varied route rather than just being in Pokemon. I've just branched a little bit into One Piece, just so it's not all just in one place.
Yeah.
But it takes time, like everything. I just want to keep kind of growing and keep the momentum up, and see how we're going there.
Yeah, so I don't know if this is a secret or if Billy's trolling it. It's hard to get a sense of what Billy's writing in chat, but she says, "Sam, you're working on an event project. Tell us more details. Is that a troll thing? Is that a secret thing? Are you actually working on a potential event in the UK?"
Yeah, I didn't want to like promote the event, but hey ho. So we have a friend who is kind of similar to my position, where he goes to a lot of the US events. He's been a lot of collecticons, all the worlds, and he's very similar. He knows what it's like to be in the US and how to buy and sell and whatever. But his company runs Bandai events in the UK. So he has the official like rights to the One Piece tournaments, the Digimon, um, a few others that they run. I'm not too sure on the names. Dragon Ball, I think, is one. So he's been running regional events for the last, I think, like 12 months or something, and they've been growing and growing to the point now where we've kind of joined together, and he's running a lot of the tournament side, and I'm running getting the vendors involved, influencers, sponsors in the UK space, and we're trying to create something that is, like I said, to a point where people will come from the US and come to this event, and it'll be like once a year they'll go, right, we know this event's on this day, we're going to fly over and it's worth our time.
Oh
So
yeah,
we're building,
you
yeah,
got
we're
to
building
promote
that.
that hardcore then, man.
Well, but it's called TCG Expo UK. Our first event is in Liverpool, November 18th and 19th. We're running 12 different tournaments. It's because of the size of the UK, we're doing it a little bit different. We're running actual tournament events and regionals alongside like a collecticon vibe of like
Interesting.
vendors and sponsors and stuff.
That's
So
something we've never really seen in the
yeah,
States, at least, where like you have a huge vendor presence, but also with, like you just said, 12 tables set up for regional play.
yeah.
That's
Well, no,
interesting.
it's 12 different tournaments.
Oh, sorry,
So
sorry. I said 12 tables,
yeah.
12 different. I have Collecticon
um,
tables on my brain,
yeah.
but yeah,
So
12 different tournaments.
we're aiming to hit around 1,500 just players just for this event,
Ooh, that's awesome.
across everything. And our main like Pokemon event, we're basically paying for someone who wins to go to Hawaii for Worlds. So we're playing the train fare and the hotel. So it's
Wow.
called the Victory Road, kind of a flashback if people remember old school
Yeah,
Pokemon tournaments.
yeah,
Um,
2011 Victory Road. Yeah.
yeah. So
Wow.
we're doing that. So it's a Road to Worlds basically event. And we also have like some play events going on so people can actually earn points for Pokemon Worlds as well the next day. So there's loads going on, and we just aim to make this the next thing. But yeah, the next event's coming up pretty soon. It's like 5 weeks away now, which is kind of scary. But we're hoping just to do something a bit different, different audiences, different people who wouldn't usually merge together. The collectors and the players are completely different audiences, and just get them all in one room, see what happens, and then grow from there. But so far, we've sold nearly 1,000 tickets. We've got a load of really big name vendors. They're all like 5 table vendors, full section vendors, and some of the biggest sponsors like eBay, Ace Grading in the UK, to come along and sponsor and help the event, because
Oh, dude,
everyone's
you're doing huge things. I didn't know this was like this.
yeah. Well, it it's why I've been so busy lately, to be honest.
Wow.
But
So this is TCG Expo. Do you have a website for this where people can buy tickets? Because after this is
yeah,
over, send me a link. I'll
I
anybody
will
out
do.
there watching this, especially if you're in the UK or even abroad and you want to visit this, there'll definitely be a link to that event as soon as this live is
Yeah,
over.
I'll send you the links. The Instagram is literally TCG Expo UK. You should find it. It's blue and yellow logo. But yeah, it's something new. We feel quite passionate about it. We have a lot of really good creators on board, like Chloe and Pokey Dean. We've got some different variety of people, some casters, um, who have done worlds before. So yeah, we're really excited. We just want it to run smoothly. It's obviously stressful trying to
Sure.
do an event. But we feel like it's the right time. The UK deserves something that's, you know,
How
out
big
there.
is the event space? I mean, you have to have a pretty huge space in order to have all these vendors and
Yeah.
all these tournaments going on.
So the event space is like 5,400 square meters. I'm pretty sure that's how big it is. So
That's
it
huge.
yeah, it's
That's
big.
huge.
It's if anyone's been to Pokemon regionals in Liverpool before, it's the same event and it's the same scale as that. Um, it's really big. We've spent a lot on the venue because there's in the UK a lot of things aren't done in actual venues. They're done in like stadiums or um what you call it, like race courses or like it. We need a big event where it's in something that's substantial, right? And this is what we're trying to go for. Like we've spent a lot of money on it, a lot of time, and we just we hope it goes really well. We just want as many people supporting it, and let's make UK have like a really good event where people are starting to come over. We'd love to get people from the US over for the London event, which will be coming quite soon.
So wow, so you're doing a Liverpool event, you're doing a London event. You
Yeah,
guys are going to be doing big things over there. I think
yeah,
for a lot of the like people in the States, you heard it here first. TCG Expo, it's going to be the new big thing.
yeah.
That'll be awesome, man. Dude, I'm super proud of you. I'm super happy for you, dude. That's you're doing big things and you weren't even going to mention it. What do you,
Yeah.
dude,
It,
that's awesome.
it's not. I'm always one of them people where it's not happened yet and it's not proven, and I don't want to give anyone false hopes until I know it's proven. I'm one of them people where I'm very like kind of black and white. Like I'll say things how they are, and if I want to put my name behind it, I will do. So I didn't want to like try and sell it because I don't want to like let people down. It's my kind of like trait. I hate letting people down. Like doing things as the best as I can and make sure everyone's having a good time and that. So um, yeah, it should be good. Hopefully,
Yeah.
fingers crossed.
And yeah, Catch 'em All Collectibles wrote a good thing in the chat. He said, for anybody out there that's tough with conversions, he said 58,000 square meters, not square feet. So square meters, 1 square meter is the equivalent of about one or about 10 square feet. So that that is a
Um,
huge,
I might.
huge
Did I get that
venue.
wrong? Square meters, square foot. I don't know. Square meter. I think it's square meters.
You
Yeah,
know, for
because
you it would be square meters, but
yeah,
we go by square foot here. So 58,000 square foot is nothing. I mean, we're talking crazy big.
yeah. It's a really big event, so it should be. It
Yeah,
should be. It should be fun. We've basically sold all the vendor spots. We've sold all the sponsor spots now, and the rest is literally playing tables for all the competitors, all the TCGs you can think of. I think we've near enough got it there. So
yeah. And for anybody who's interested in the event and you're watching this real time during the live, number one mod in the game, Drew, he just dropped a link to the TCG Expo Instagram. So I recommend you
thanks.
guys checking it out. And it will be so after this live's over, there'll be Sam's Instagram page. I recommend you guys checking out the website for TCG Expo. I'll add the Instagram for TCG Expo. I think you're going to be doing big things in this space, especially when it comes to that kind of stuff. And the fact that you're able to combine, like I mentioned earlier, both like 12 events going on and vendors. I think that's something that's been sorely missed in this hobby is where it's
Yeah,
always just one or the two. It's
yeah,
always just the events or it's just vendors. It's never a combination of both. And to be honest with you, when it comes to events, like one of the highlights for the events for people who are maybe not into the actual playability of the card game might be like artist signings or stuff like this,
yeah,
but there's never any, vendors tables and stuff.
yeah.
So if you're only going to the artist signing, the event as a whole could be a little bit lackluster, but I think you're definitely making up for that big time.
Yeah, yeah. We thought of a lot of things that say collecticons have, and we even have like a main stage with panels and
Awesome.
stuff going on top of that. So the idea is to keep the collectors there. So once they've looked around the vendor booths, there's something to keep them there. You've got plenty of stuff for the players to do. The side events going on if people want to just. I think we're running the Disney Lorcana event where it's literally the release of the new set is the day before, and it's all it's like pick up a deck and play kind of feel to it from the new series. So that should be really fun as well to get new players to different TCGs. but yeah, there's tons. We're trying to make it as like, yeah, as much going on as possible. So people stay there.
So anybody that's just into any sort of TCG, it's not just Pokemon. You're talking
Yeah.
12 events of 12 different games.
Yeah, so we have two Pokemon events. There's the European regionals for One Piece and Digimon. You've got a Disney Lorcana tournament. There's a Magic the Gathering regionals.
Wow.
There is Battle Saga Spirits or Battle Spirit Saga. It's one of them ways round. There's another event which I've completely forgot the TCG name of. There's Dragon Ball, and there is, I think there's a Yu-Gi-Oh one as well. Is that 12? I can't remember. I lose
Damn,
track. There's
this
that many
is
going on.
the craziest event. How, I mean, the logistics to put all that together sounds, now I know why you've been such a busy person, man. That sounds daunting to say the
Yeah.
least. And
So
then you're also going to be doing panels and
yeah,
vendors. And how many, this is just a 2-day event.
yeah, 2-day event. So we're luckily we've got so Tommy, who runs the tournaments, he can run a lot of them. He has judges and staff that he usually employs. But we've worked with a couple of other game stores so they can run other events as well, whether they be side events. So it's everyone like helping together. But I think like a lot of people can see what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And there's definitely space in the market in the UK to do this. So I think if we get it right the first time, and at least I always say, show people what we're trying to do, then for the next event, they'll be like, right, that's what happened the event before. We know that they tried to do this and this, and they're going to do it again. And we want to go there and be a vendor, be a sponsor, put our name on the brand. That's what we're going for at the minute.
Dude, I think you're going to get there. So we have two questions. Pokey Princess Nicole asked Flesh and Blood, and Basic Trainer asked Metazoo. Are there going to be either Flesh and Blood there or Metazoo tournaments? Or?
I don't think there's going to be Flesh and Blood. As far as I'm aware, I've not been told of it. And Metazoo, unfortunately, it's not in the UK. Like, I only know of one person who ever
I
stopped Flesh and Blood.
I
I
have the
mean, Metazoo.
I'm not a Metazoo player or
Yeah.
collector, but I definitely have the connections if you want to get
Yeah,
connected with the right people at Metazoo, if that's something you might want to take on in the future.
yeah, definitely, sure.
And his name is
Yeah,
Basic Trainer or IVR too.
yeah. The only person I know who's ever stopped Metazoo is Pokey Chloe or her husband Harry. He stocked a lot of it early days, but I've not really
I
seen it
still
in
got
the UK.
it.
Yeah, he's still got it. It's sat
Still
in
got it.
boxes somewhere, I think.
That's funny. But no, Sam, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day, man, to hop on this live. We
Cool.
went for about an hour and a half. This has been a lot of fun, man. I think a lot of people out there maybe don't know who you are. They all do know who you are. And I think I recommend for everybody out there watching this, give Sam a follow. Sam's going big places in this hobby, and Sam obviously is doing really, really big things in this hobby, and especially this new TCG Expo. This is the sad. I say the word sadly because it is sad that this is the first time I've heard about this up till this live. And I think you really need to push this out more. And I really,
Yeah,
really can see this being something huge for you in the future. But
I appreciate it.
yeah, Sam, I just want to say, man, meeting you in Charlotte was definitely one of the highlights. I'm One of the things I've been trying to do in this hobby is just surround myself with people that I think are true net positives for this hobby and are really trying to grow this hobby. And I think you're definitely one of those, man. But
I
I
appreciate it.
appreciate you. I know I could speak for myself, and I know I could speak for Sam on this one. Everybody that joined in real time or after the fact to watch this video, guys, we appreciate every single one of you. If it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be doing any of this stuff, and we definitely wouldn't be making these lives. So thank you. Sam, you have any final words before we sign off?
I just want to say thanks for having me on. It's been really fun. I really enjoy doing podcasts. I just don't do them enough. So I appreciate you asking me to come on. And yeah, just keep all the good work and look forward to seeing what you do in the future.
Thanks, man. Yep. So for everybody out there, we appreciate you again, and we'll catch you on the next video.
Cheers.